At first, you didn't know what had happened. You were lying on the floor, your vision blurred in front of you as you tried to make sense of what had just transpired. You closed your eyes and played it back over in your mind. Kylo had been standing with the hilt of his lightsaber shoved into your gut when suddenly there was a deafening blast and you had been thrown backwards, the back of your head hitting the wall hard. You tried to get up, but your head suddenly felt as if it was split down the middle, and for a moment you wondered if Kylo had cracked your head open with his lightsaber instead. You closed your eyes as you felt a wave of nausea pass over you and opened them again to see your vision still swimming as though you were looking through film. You could see Kylo get to his feet, and you realized that the hologram of Snoke was gone, for whatever reason. You close your eyes again and collapse your head down onto the floor, too weak and in too much pain to move. You can feel Kylo's gloved hand brush your hair out of your face, and you wince as he makes contact with your head, which, as of this moment, felt far too sensitive. You just lie there, vulnerable, waiting for the final blow that doesn't come. We need to go. His words sound funny in your ears as he tosses you over one shoulder, and although the movement caused a sharp spike of pain to pool in the center of your skull and drip in a steady rivulet down the screaming nerve endings in your neck, there wasn't much you could do to protest but groan, which brought on a whole new level of pain on its own. You see his new helmet lying discarded on the floor in the corner of the room, and you close your eyes as he quickly makes his way down the hall, although you don't know where he's headed. Another explosion rocks the ship, and you couldn't help but thank the Force for that incredible amount of perfect timing. Keeping your eyes closed as he carries you through the hall, you have no idea where he's going, but to force yourself to trust him. You're in far too much pain to do much else. You're too overwhelmed from that massive hit you just took to even think about the resistance or the mission that you were here for. You had been sent here to disable Kylo Ren, but it turned out that instead you had been the one to have been disabled, and he was either carrying you to safety or to a different kind of hell. Stop! Kylo stops moving, and you rack your brain to figure out where the familiar voice came from. Rey. You can't help but smile to yourself, and Kylo adjusts your weight on his shoulder before he steps over the threshold to a doorway and sets you down right beside the door. Your head rolls onto one shoulder at an uncomfortable angle as you feel Kylo standing above you, and all at once you can hear the hum of his lightsaber. You shudder for a moment before he turns away from you, and you open your eyes to see Rey standing on the middle of a bridge suspended over a large abyss, much like the one Han Solo had died on. You can see the blue of her lightsaber, and you blink a few times before your vision finally starts to clear. Kylo arrogantly swings his lightsaber in his right hand a few times as he walks towards her. You're in my way, scavenger. We're taking you back with us, Rey says firmly, brandishing her lightsaber out in front of her. It's over. The First Order is lost. Kylo doesn't respond as he just swings his lightsaber out towards her in an underhanded strike, and she blocks it, swinging her arm down to push him back. You hear the sound of their lightsabers hitting against each other as you close your eyes again, resting your head against the wall. You had to help her, or help him. Help someone. You had to do something. Your eyes snap open again as Rey lets out a nervous cry as Kylo almost gets the better of her. Kylo, stop. Just give up. You try to reach out to him with your mind, but if he heard you, he makes no sign of it. You try to get up, using the wall to brace yourself, but the room is starting to spin, and you let yourself sit back, at least for another moment. There you are. Suddenly you hear another voice, a warm, familiar voice that immediately tugs a smile to your lips as you see Poe drop down beside you. He glances nervously to the battle raging on between Rey and Kylo on the center of the bridge before he turns his attention back to you. Are you okay? He puts 2 fingers under your chin and tilts your head back as he studies your face. Hit my head, you say softly. I'm fine, though. You know me. You suddenly spot a scorch mark along the shoulder of his armored flight suit, and you notice that he's favoring his other hand. Adrenaline immediately races through your veins as you realize that Poe probably got hit coming here to save you. You, who had been more than content to forget about him while you had been intimate with Kylo Ren over the course of the past few days. What happened? Are you okay? I'm fine, he says, and while you're not so sure, he has the decency to crack a grin as he leans forward and kisses you softly, chastely, quickly, but it's enough. You can feel a pure bubble of rage rising in your chest, and you pull away to see Kylo staring right at you. Shit. But it's a good enough of a distraction, because he almost doesn't strike, or doesn't dodge a strike that Rey hurls against his side. Poe helps you to your feet, and that's when a stormtrooper emerges out of a door to the left that you hadn't seen before. Poe immediately spins you around the corner with him as red blaster bolts explode against the wall where you had just been standing. You take a few steadying breaths as you let your senses return to you, and Poe unclips a blaster pistol from his belt, taking advantage of the lull around the corner to return fire. He peeks around the corner and turns back to face you, brushing your hair out of your face as he cradles your temple, just like Kylo had earlier. You seriously okay? Yeah, I just hit my head really fucking hard, you say as Rey lets out a cry from inside. You both exchange a quick glance as you peek back inside. I need to go help her. Wait, Poe calls to you, but as you move to step back inside, 4 stormtroopers come racing around the corner and raise their blasters at you, forcing Poe to pull you back into the doorway as more bolts go flying in your direction. You need to find Finn. Why? You ask, but he doesn't reply right away as he grits his teeth in concentration. The 4 stormtroopers are constantly firing bolts in the doorway, giving Poe no opportunity to duck out and fire back. You want to try to use the Force against them, but you feel weak right now, and you're not sure how much power you had. You weren't sure how well you could channel the Force, and you had no lightsaber, no staff, and nothing to defend yourself with. I've got an idea, Poe says suddenly as he motions to a stormtrooper lying face down next to you. Here, help me flip him over. Confused, but in no mood to argue, you pull on one shoulder as Poe turns the trooper over at the hips as he grabs a small, silvery sphere with a black line around it. Poe cracks a grin as he tosses it up in the air with one hand before catching it and turning it over in his fingers. Lucky he didn't use this on us, huh? Is that what I think it is? You ask nervously, glancing between Poe and the small silver orb in his hands. Just watch. He waits for a break in the fire before he twists either half of the sphere in opposite directions and starts to make a high-pitched whine before it starts to beep rapidly, and he rolls it out the door towards the stormtroopers. Outside, you can hear the stormtroopers' alarmed cries as the thermal detonator explodes and emits a wave of fire. Once the smoke clears, Poe steps out of the door, blaster at the ready. At the end of the hallway, you only counted 3 stormtroopers on the ground, and before you could warn him, the last stormtrooper jumped out from behind the corner and raised his blaster, firing a series of shots in your direction. Poe immediately pushes you to the side, out of harm's way, before he lets out a disgruntled cry and falls backwards. No! You scream and hold up your hand to the stormtrooper, who immediately goes down to his knees as he slumps face first to the floor. You were wondering how you managed to knock him out so quickly when you see Finn standing behind him, holding up the blaster rifle he had just fired. You let out an appreciative breath until you see Chewie following through the door after him, firing at the stormtroopers who are pressing in with his bowcaster. Finn gives you an appreciative nod before he turns back to help Chewie, and you rush to Poe as you drop to your knees beside him. Are you okay? Did he hit you? Your voice is almost frantic. Grazed me, Poe says with a light chuckle. I'm fine, He can't hide the grimace of pain as he tries to sit up. No. Finn rushes over to his side, and Poe forces a smile for his sake, too. Hey, buddy, no, I'm okay, Poe says quickly. Just grazed me. I'm okay. We need to move, Finn tells you as he meets your eyes. We need to get out of here, you agree. But I need to help Rey first. We can't leave without Kylo, or this whole thing will have been for nothing. You step onto the other end of the bridge so that Kylo is effectively cornered between you and Rey. Wait! You see Finn reach into his jacket pocket as he tosses something over to you, and you catch it in both hands. Your lightsaber. You hold it up above your head in one hand as you expand it, and Kylo spins to face you, staring at you, mystified, as you hold the glowing amber staff out in front of you. His eyes travel up and down the blades as if he can't quite believe what he's seeing before they return back to your face. It's time to go, Kylo. Come on. We need to get to the hangar. You. Kylo glares at you like he doesn't quite know what to say, his eyes full of anger and betrayal, and you just shake your head, indicating that this isn't the time for this. Let me try to talk to him, you tell Rey in your mind. Let me try to reason with him. It can't be done, is Rey's firm reply, but she doesn't attack him while his back is turned regardless. His attention is centered on you now, and you intend to take full advantage. It's done, Kylo, you tell him. It's all over now, and you're coming with us, one way or another. You dim the power in your lightsaber just a bit as you offer your hand to him. Please, just come with me. We can go back to the Resistance. Together. Please. Kylo doesn't say anything as he charges at you with a spin, slashing at the bridge cables to send Rey falling into the abyss below, and you hold up your staff and spin it to the side to block his overhead strike, tilting it the other way to block another blow to the side. Suddenly, you are happy to have had all of those sparring and fighting lessons with him on the Starkiller base years ago. It may have been a long time since those had happened, but muscle memory did not fade, and his old established signature moves remained the same. Behind him, you see Rey jumping into a looping somersault from the collapsing bridge as she goes up to strike him from behind, and he spins around to block her before he spins back around to evade your next strike. You're both closing in on him, and it's clear that he's like a trapped animal as he lashes out in each direction with his lightsaber, his swings becoming angrier and more erratic with each blind thrust. You remember how hard it was facing Rey's twin lightsabers, even with your two blades, and you had no idea how Kylo was managing to keep up with all three blades compared to a single red sword. You and Rey continue to wheel around him, alternatively avoiding his wild slashes and quickly cutting through holes in his defenses to wear him down as you pushed him towards the dead end of the walkway. As he realizes he cannot be driven back any further, he lashes out in his rage and slashes downwards towards your head, and you instinctively block it, absorbing the full force of the strike with the hilt. Rey had been right. It was real Mandalorian iron, real Beskar, and it absorbs the impact without so much as cracking. Kylo looks briefly shocked that your hilt could stop his lightsaber, and you take full advantage of this distraction. Rey! You hold up your hand towards Kylo's head, palm out, trying to concentrate, and Rey does the same. Kylo tries to swing out before he drops down to one knee, the force of your collective conscious overwhelming his. Don't fight it, Kylo, you tell him softly. Come on, Kylo, don't fight this. But he does, and it's clear that he's in a terrible amount of pain, as he sinks down to one knee, gritting his teeth in agony before he finally drops to the floor, unconscious. You feel dizzy, like you're about to faint, and you clutch the nearby rail for support as the ship is hit by another blast that makes you almost topple over, and you can see Kylo's lightsaber rolling in your direction. Grab it, Rey tells you, and you quickly bend down and pick up Kylo's lightsaber, attaching it to your belt as Chewie makes his way past you, scooping Ren into his large arms and throwing him over his shoulder as if he was a child. Good work. Told you. Piece of cake, you say with a small smirk. You still feel dizzy and weak, but you know you need to move past it. Kylo could still wake up at any time, and you still had to make your way off this ship. Rey beams at you, but her expression quickly fades as both of you have to grab the railings as the ship sways dangerously again. Chewie lets out a loud howl, and you turn to Rey. He's right. Time to go. You both rush back towards Poe as Finn is helping him get to his feet, and you quickly support his other arm as you both help him out into the hallway. Your lightsaber is clutched firmly in your hand, but you don't know how much you'll really be able to protect them at this rate. Rey leads the way, lightsaber in one hand as Poe's discarded blaster in the other, as you make your way down the hall back towards what you could only assume to be the hangar. When you get inside, there's a general sense of chaos. You see Poe's X-Wing parked beside a large ship, and Rey quickly turns back to Poe, who didn't appear to be in any position to fly it. I got it, she yells to him as she turns to you. Can you handle him okay? Yeah, you reply, although for a split second you're not sure if she's talking about Poe or Kylo. You quickly follow Chewie up the ramp to the ship as she hops into the X-Wing, and Poe turns his head back to watch her. Glad I taught her how to fly that thing, he mutters under his breath as you lead him onto the ship and plop him down into a seat. You let Finn help strap him in before you turn around to see Chewie set Kylo down. You quickly buckle him into the seat, smoothing back his damp hair in a quick gesture before Poe can see you. Suddenly, a blast rocks the ship and you fall backwards into Finn, who grabs you by both arms to steady you. Can you take off okay? Poe asks Finn, who nods, as Chewie climbs into the co-pilot seat. Should be fine, as long as the shields hold, Finn says, but as he talks, the ship is jarred by another hit. Go, you tell him, pushing him towards the cockpit. You can hear Kylo start to stir, but you don't pay him any mind. Right now, you just had to worry about getting the ship in the air, and then you could deal with him later. You still had his lightsaber, and Chewie had his bowcaster if Kylo had started to cause any real trouble, although something told you that he wouldn't. Start her up, you say quickly. I'll buy you some time. Wait, Poe says quickly, but you ignore him as you head down the ramp to find yourself surrounded by a legion of stormtroopers. You summon the blades of your lightsaber to either end of your staff as you twirl it around, blocking the various blaster shots that they shoot in your direction. You're able to take out a few that are close to you with the deflected shots, but your head is still pounding. You feel weak, and you're in no state to be fighting. Even still, you don't have a choice, and you keep trying to push them back until something hits you in the side of the leg and you go down, tumbling to the bottom of the ramp. You sit up just in time to see a blaster bolt headed right for you, and there's nothing you can do to stop it in time. You squeeze your eyes shut, bracing yourself for the impact, but it doesn't come. You open your eyes to see it suspended in midair in front of you, and you quickly scoot to the side, out of its way, as it crashes against the ramp. You can hear the steady hum of the ship's engines kicking on, and you turn back to look at Kylo, who raises both hands to knock the approaching stormtroopers back. Take my hand, he yells above the noise, and you can see the ramp starting to ascend. You quickly dash onto it, jumping up to grab his hand, and he pulls you safely into his arms, your face crashing into his chest as his arms fold around you. You hover there for a moment, inhaling his scent and his warmth, and without even thinking, you reach up and press your lips against his where you know Poe can't see you. He kisses you back for just a moment, before he pulls away and narrows his eyes at you. You betrayed me, he says quietly. The ship lurches again, and you both move back to where you were sitting. There are 2 seats facing each other, Poe on one side and Kylo on the other, and 2 seats against the back wall between them. You can either be sitting closer to Poe or closer to Kylo without sitting directly next to them, and you decide to sit next to Kylo, for safety reasons. You buckle yourself in and clutch your lightsaber tightly in your hands as you take a deep breath, listening to Finn whoop with appreciation from the cockpit as the hyperdrive engages. "We made it!" Finn laughs. He looks back at you and casts you a thumbs up, and you smile as you return it, holding your arms straight out in front of you. You turn to Poe for affirmation, and he smiles as he nods at you, although his eyes look less sure. Suddenly, the air in the cabin seems tense, which is made all the more strained by Chewie's sudden growling declaration. Your Shiriwook may have been a bit rusty, but you loosely translated it in your head as, "Just wait until your mother sees you. She is going to be furious." Kylo just scowls as he looks away, refusing to look at anyone in particular, and you let out a deep breath. Kylo's eyes eventually meet yours, and you don't look away. You can't really tell what's going on behind his dark eyes, but you can't help but stare back at him, silently pleading for his forgiveness. Not that you should even bother. Less than an hour ago, he was trying to kill you, and although you didn't know if he would have gone through with it, now the tables were turned. Now you were the one leading him to his predictably eventual death. "You're not as intimidating without your mask," Poe says at length, finally breaking the silence. Kylo just turns his head to regard him with dry humor in his eyes as he holds up one hand. For a moment, nothing happens, but suddenly Poe's head snaps back against the seat, and you can see him screw his eyes together tight as he grimaces in pain. "Kylo, stop," you order. "Seriously, you're hurting him. Don't make me knock you out again." "What's going on?" Finn yells from up front. "Kylo, stop." You pull your lightsaber to eye level and expand it so that the tip of one of the blades ends just before it can touch Kylo's nose. Kylo just smirks as though he is completely unaffected by the gesture and slowly lowers his arm. "There will be no mind probing of any kind on this ship," Finn calls back, turning around. "Can't you just knock him out again?" "I will if he doesn't behave himself," you mutter under your breath, and Kylo just settles into a satisfied, contented gloat as you unbuckle yourself to sit by Poe's side. "Hey," you say quietly as you brush back his thick hair, which is damp with sweat. "You okay?" "Fine," he replies, offering a small smile. He takes your hand in his, and you offer him a small smile of your own in return as you feel Kylo's anger growing. Only this time, it wasn't pure, unadulterated ire. No, this was jealousy. You squeeze Poe's hand reassuringly as you move back to sit down in the seat closer to Kylo, just in case he tries anything. As you buckle yourself back into your seat, Kylo reaches out with his long arm to push some of your hair away from your neck. At first, you're not exactly sure what he's trying to accomplish, but you suddenly realize that he's admiring his handiwork of the hickeys and love bites that are scattered across your neck. You close your eyes and wrinkle up your nose as you realize he was trying to make Poe jealous in turn. Poe, to his credit, looks more or less unaffected. "How are you doing?" you ask him, waving off Kylo's hand as if it was simply an annoyance. "Are you feeling okay?" "It just grazed me," Poe says, keeping his tone light. "Not the first time it's happened. Give it a week and I'll be back to normal in no time." "That's what happens when you get out of your ship," you tease gently, just trying to make conversation. "You weren't made for this grunt work." Poe chuckles appreciatively. "Yeah, well, I didn't want you to be stuck with him any longer than you had to." He adjusts his chin out towards Kylo, pulling up the corner of his upper lip in the semblance of a sneer. "Really?" Kylo says as he turns to face Poe, sitting up a little straighter even though the height difference between them was already obvious. She seemed to be enjoying her time with me. Poe gnaws on the corner of his lower lip as he stares him down, and you roll your eyes. "How's Annie?" you ask, turning to Poe, desperate to say anything to get the conversation off of you. Plus, you knew that talking about Annie was likely to captivate Kylo's attention, and you were hoping to provide him with enough of a distraction to stop him from trying something. Anything else. Kylo's behavior had been nothing short of erratic today, and you weren't exactly sure what he was capable of in his weakened state. You didn't think he would hurt you. Not again. Not now. But you didn't want to underestimate him regardless. "Misses his mom," Poe says simply. Although he hesitates, then shakes his head as if deciding against something. "It can wait." "What?" you ask, leaning forward in your chair. Kylo stretches his arm forward, palm out, and you slap it down. "No." "There are other ways to draw it out of him," Kylo says simply, and you ignore him as you turn back to Poe. "Just tell me," you tell him quickly, and Poe releases a heavy sigh before glancing at Kylo and then back to you. "He's been talking to someone," he tells you. "Latson hears him at night. He says sometimes Annie'll go into the other room to talk to someone, but there's no one there. Latson's asked him about it, but all Annie will say is that he's talking to the man from his dreams." "Snoke?" you ask, the knuckles on both hands turning white as they clench into fists at your side. "Was it Snoke?" "Don't know," Poe admits. "Latson doesn't think so, at any rate. Annie didn't seem familiar with the name, although apparently they were talking about you." He glances back towards Kylo. "And him." "Annie knows he's coming?" you ask, turning desperately from Kylo to Poe. Poe just nods his head solemnly, and you swing back to Kylo. "Was this your doing? Did you do your dream vision thing to him too? What did you do?" "Nothing," Kylo replies simply as he looks away from you. That answer is not good enough for you. Without thinking, you unbuckle yourself again and slide onto his lap, pressing your fingertips to his temples. You close your eyes and try to focus, but you're still weak from what happened earlier, and you can't really get anything out of him. You're trying, though, trying as hard as you can, taking baby steps, remembering how you used to wait until you opened up that black corridor in your mind that led you to access his. It had been so much easier in the past when he would willingly open himself up to you, when he hardly kept a shield between you at all. But you suppose those days had been gone for a long while now. Suddenly, you feel Kylo's hands on either side of your head, pulling your face towards him as he kisses you again, and you kiss him back for the briefest of moments before you realize what he's trying to do. You push his chest with both hands as you stumble off of his lap. "Asshat," you hiss as you move now to sit beside Poe, crossing your arms over your chest. Kylo simply raises his eyebrows as he tilts to the head to the side, gloating. You scowl at him, and as his dark eyes lock with yours, you hear his voice inside your head again. "So this was your plan all along, to lead me back to the Resistance." You huff and refuse to look at him, but you can feel his gentle coaxing as you turn back to face him. "I hardly think it matters what I tried to do when you were the one who was ready to kill me." "I couldn't," Kylo replies in your mind. "You know I couldn't. You could feel me. I didn't know what you were feeling," you exclaim suddenly, and even Finn swivels his head around to look at you. You sigh and curse under your breath as you turn to Poe. "He tried to kill me," you say, fully aware of how childish your voice sounds right now, as if you were tattling on him. "Snoke ordered him to try to kill me, and he almost did it too, if you guys hadn't shown up and knocked the lightsaber out of his hands." "Snoke was there?" Poe asks seriously, but you just shake your head. "Hologram," you answer as you turn to Kylo, your face set. "But we'll have his location soon enough." Kylo just sits back as he fixes you with his gaze, and you stare right back at him, projecting another mental thought into his head. "Fine. Let's say you weren't going to kill me. But was he right? Did you really send me away because Snoke wanted to train me in the dark side of the Force? Kylo rolls his head to the side and crosses his arms over his chest, as if the conversation is making him uncomfortable. I had other reasons. That's a yes. Fine. Then answer me this. Did you stay away from me all this time to try to protect me and Annie? His eyes meet yours again, and his face is suddenly full of sincerity. Yes. He spreads his palms and lowers his mental shield, and you close your eyes as you feel his honesty emanating off of him. He was telling the truth. Poe looks between you two, sensing the mental connection, but says nothing. Like that matters, you huff, blowing air out through your nostrils. So you protected me. Big deal. You still hurt and killed trillions of other people. The only reason you saved me and Annie is because of your own self-interest. It isn't love if it's self-preservation. Self-preservation? Kylo asks, and you can sense a note of good humor in his thoughts. Is that why you're with the pilot? Your hands ball into fists at your sides once again, and you can feel heat rising in your cheeks. You had no idea what Kylo had been able to glimpse in Poe's head, but considering Poe wasn't Force-sensitive enough to block him out, and emotionally charged memories were the easiest to grasp, you figured that he must have seen enough. First of all, despite what you may have seen in his head, I am not with him, and second of all, that is none of your business. Kylo is silent for a moment. Then, he cares about you. You glance up at him, and for a moment you let his tone echo in your ears as his words reverberate in your mind. He sounded so sad, so defeated. He knew what was coming when you landed back on Dakar. He knew that there was no possible way that you two could ever possibly be together again. Slowly, you bring your eyes back up to meet his. It's nothing compared to what I felt for you over the past few days. Now it's Kylo's turn to huff as he looks away. It's just the Force bond. That's all it is. If that's all it is, then look me in the eyes and say it. His eyes snap back towards yours, and you could see him willing himself to say it, to think it, but he can't bring himself to. I know you have the emotional maturity of a child, but can we at least try to talk this out like adults? Kylo just shakes his head. There's nothing to talk about. You're too tired for this, too tired for all of this. You mope as you rest your head against Poe's shoulder and close your eyes. His one hand is still bracing the side that got hit, but the other sneaks its way above your shoulder, gently scratching the area just above your ear. It's not really all that pleasurable, and you don't like it as much as the way Kylo touches you, but you stay silent. The moments tick by and become minutes, and you lose track of time. What? Poe asks suddenly, and you open your eyes to see Kylo staring at him intently. She doesn't like that, Kylo says at length, and Poe's hand suddenly stops as he realizes what Kylo is referring to. It's fine, you try to reassure him, but Poe just moves his hand down to your shoulder. You feel a cloud of depression hover over you for a moment as your eyes skirt to Kylo, and you wish you could have been cuddling up to him for one last time instead. Don't fall asleep back there, Finn calls back to you. Remember, this is the guy who tried to kill me once. I'm not real keen on having my back to him up here. Noted, you yell back as you sit up, turning to face Poe. You doing okay? You can't help but notice that he's lost some color in his cheeks, and you're not sure what you can do for him. Fine, he says as he offers you a soft smile, but you can tell he's growing weaker. Maybe if he hadn't been distracted, Kylo starts, and you turn around angrily to face him. Keep talking, and I will run you through with your own lightsaber, you snap. You take Poe's hand in yours and gently run your thumb over his knuckles. Hey, we're going to be home soon, okay? And then they're going to fix you right up, and you're going to take me out flying again, and then you're going to teach me how to pilot your X-Wing next, alright? Poe just smiles at you as he lets his eyes slip closed, and you decide to let him rest, holding both of his hands firmly in yours. His pulse is still strong and steady, so there was at least that to be thankful for. He was going to make it, you knew that. You just didn't like seeing him weak like this. You can feel some sort of emotion of thought ebbing off Kylo, and you quickly turn around to find him glaring in your direction. He might be dying, so can you please stop being jealous for 5 minutes? You ask. You know what's going to happen once we get back to Dakar. There's no use fighting it. Kylo just crosses his arms over his chest. I can try to escape. Right now. I can kill you and everyone here. But you know there's no point, you snap. You couldn't kill me. Snoke is probably done with you, and I can feel it. You're tired of this. This war has gone on for years, and you are watching everything that you have struggled to achieve collapsing at your feet. So no, you're not going to try to escape because you have nowhere else to go. You realize you're talking out loud again, and so you quickly silence your voice and communicate with him through pure thought instead. And you want to see Annie. I can feel it. You want to see your son. You're hoping they'll let you see him before whatever happens next. You steady your resolve. But try to escape and I will kill you. You have my word. If you think I'm going to risk you hurting Finn or Poe or anyone on this ship, then you don't know me or the lengths I'll go to in order to protect my friends. Kylo narrows his eyes at you. This is a truth that he already knows all too well. You betrayed me, he says at length. Do you think I could ever forgive you for this? You just laughed to yourself. I've forgiven you for plenty, but you know what? Maybe in this case, you are stronger than me. So go ahead. Don't forgive me. I hope you won't. At least it'll make things easier for me. You bring the back of Poe's hand to your lips and kiss it, but you're troubled, both by Kylo's reaction and by how cold Poe's hand seemed. Can this ship go any faster? You call up to Finn up front as you scoot yourself back in your own seat. We'll be back soon, Finn assures you. Just hold on a little while longer. You let out a deep breath as you hold Poe's hand between both of yours and meet Kylo's relentless gaze, not daring to look away, not even for a minute. You couldn't be home soon enough. You were greeted by no less than an army when you finally returned to Dakar, with Rey and Leia leading the charge. Kylo casts one last irritated glance back in your direction as he turns to face them, and you catch a rare glimpse of mother and child seeing each other again for the first time in years. His facial expression remains completely impassive, giving nothing away, and she just stares up at him, her lips pursed, but her eyes still gleaming with reserved emotion before she finally orders her troops to lead him to the cell that she had probably prepared for him. You feel absolutely drained, your vision spotting at the corners, but you immediately get to your feet as she comes over to embrace you, and for the first time you really let yourself be encircled by her maternal embrace, resting your cheek against her shoulder. You want to ask her what's to be done with him, if they're going to kill him, but you can't ask her that when you're surrounded by Rey and Finn and Poe and everyone else. As soon as you pull away from her, you're almost toppled backwards by Rey, who wraps her arms around you so tightly you're afraid you might just break in half. Are you okay? She asks as she pulls away, holding you at arm's length as she studies your face. Yeah, But at that moment, it all becomes too much for you to take, and you let the dark spots overtake your vision as you drop into a dead faint, Finn catching you from behind before your head hits the floor. Honestly, it should have been surprising that you had made it that long. You had started to lose track of yourself on the Resolute, started to fall back into Kylo's arms as if you were feeding a much-needed addiction, and seeing everyone else there with him was like a shock to your system. You almost felt as though you had previously been living in two separate worlds, one in the First Order with Kylo, and one on the Resistance base with everyone else, and now the two halves of yourself were being violently merged together, forcing you to make a choice. The only problem was that the choice wasn't really yours to make. You could love Kylo all you wanted, but The fact was that he was a prisoner here now, and it didn't seem like he was likely to forgive you. Then again, he hadn't really seemed all that surprised to begin with, and you wondered if Kylo himself really had given up hope. Of everything. Of commanding the galaxy, of being with you, or even of being a father. You had no idea what had happened to him over the past few years, but he showed all the signs of a man quickly unraveling, and you couldn't do a thing to help him. No, the only thing you had to gain through him was being sucked back under the current of the Force bond, yet again, and that wasn't really so much as a gain as it was a submission, and you doubted anyone here would allow you to submerge yourself in it ever again. Of course, that didn't mean you wouldn't still be tempted.